So now to talk about how we created those assets, I'm going to hand it off to Shimon, our in-game cinematics modeling lead.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, guys. My name is Shimon Cohen, and I'm the IGC modeling supervisor. The modeling team actually consists of 5 modelers, and it was our task to basically create all the assets for the story mode campaign for both interactive and the cutscene portion of it. We had to do all that using the real-time limitations of the engine. Now, when we started off, pre-render wasn't really known for doing real-time assets. So the first thing we really had to do was kind of figure out how we're going to model all this stuff. What we did for that is we basically developed some pipelines and some workflows in order to achieve that. Once we did that, we wanted to take one of our existing characters. As you can see here, it's Tychus Finley. We already had a model for our pre-rendered cinematics, for the Building Better Marine cinematic. And taking him and using the pipelines we developed, we wanted to make sure that we could actually translate him into a real-time asset. Using that, we also wanted to achieve that cinematic quality that the pre-rendered had, so we paid a lot of attention to textures and actually where we put our polygons to make sure that he read really well from a distance and up close. Another asset we did this to was actually Arcturus Mengsk. We did the same procedure here. We took the high-res model that we had from pre-rendered and we converted this down to a low-poly real-time asset. One thing we knew from the get-go is that we couldn't make all the assets we wanted to from pre-rendered. I mean, they were going to have some models we could use, but the majority of our assets would have to be built from scratch. That meant that we had to build all the sets, characters, and textures, and pre-rendered was never going to use any of them. For one of those assets I want to talk about is Matt Horner. I want to show you guys how we actually take a character from start to finish. So the first thing we really want to do is we want to find out a little bit more about Matt Horner. Who is he? What's his backstory? In this case, Matt was actually a member of the Sons of Korhal, and he quickly gained rank to first officer. He was later assigned to work with the Sun's latest recruit, who was Jim Raynor, which he actually grew to quickly admire and basically be friends with. And actually was also the first to join Jim when he deserted Mengsk. One of the actual description we had for him was he would have to be tall and slender in his mid-20s and wear a naval uniform. The concept artists we have basically took that description and started doing different variations of Matt, as can be seen here. With feedback from our art director, Nick, and actually the game team, they basically finalized Matt Horner as this concept over here. So once the final concept is approved, it comes to the modeling team, and we basically have to start and basically make the model for the game. Here is the first version of Matt Horner we did back in '07, and some of you actually might remember from BlizzCon '07. We did this with the limitations we had at the time. Now, once we did this, we kind of looked at this, and we knew we could make this better. We knew we could push this further, and it didn't capture that cinematic feeling we had in the pre-rendered side. So to achieve that, we needed to go to talk to the game team and basically raise all the limitations up, figure out how can we actually push the boundaries of what we were doing. Once we figured all that out, we decided to take another stab at Matt Horner. Horner 2.0 was born. As you can see here, the biggest changes we'd have was polygon and texture size. It was pretty much tripled for characters. Matt is obviously, we wanted really to convey a sense of likability in the character, and we spent a lot of details on the face to make him memorable and iconic, somebody you'd really remember, as you can see here. We tuned all our shaders and all our textures uniquely per character at that time, so we could achieve this look we were going for. You can see it here as well. And we also really wanted to make sure that these characters all felt unique on their own. And the funny thing is, we didn't also want to throw away some of our old characters. We wanted to use a lot of them. So what did we do with the first one? We basically put a bloodier texture on him, put him in a body bag, and put him on the 5 o'clock news, as you can see here. This was actually on the cinematic for Escape from Marsara on the news. So we like to reuse assets where we can. Now, once we had all these new pipelines developed and all these ways of basically making our stuff better, we wanted to go ahead and redo everything we already did, and that was a big job. Here you can see the bridge, which we also showed at BlizzCon 2007. We basically applied the same techniques as we did with the Horner, redid everything, and as you can see, here's the final bridge as you can see in the game. We did the same with Gym. This is Gym 1.0, and this is the latest Gym as can be seen in the game. Marsara Bar is even worse. This is one of our earliest iterations of Marsara Bar. We knew where everything needed to be placed, so we mocked it up and we built it the way we thought it was going to be laid out. As a final result, this is what it looks like in the game. So, and finally, it's Zeratul. Here's also a before and after of him, Shader 1.0 and basically going to 2.0. And finally, as one more thing with the creation, this actually translated all the way to cutscenes. Here's a cutscene that we also showed at BlizzCon 07 of Zeratul warning, which you guys can see the before and after on completely. And with that, I'll pass you on to James for storyboards.
Thanks, Shimon. I'm going to take you from storyboard through animation. And to start off, I'm going to use it as an example to our battlefield. Specifically, this cinematic was titled Card to Play. In the beginning, the director and the storyboard artist get together and they make the storyboards. Making drawings and cutting them to music is still, to this day, the best way to create a story in making an animated film. It's fast, it's freeform, there are no creative limitations whatsoever. And that's necessary because there are many different ways to tell one story. Basically, you have a lot of ideas to try before you find the best idea or the right way to tell a story. So I'm going to take you through this next specific clip of this cinematic with sound, and we're going to take it all the way through the pipeline. So next step after the drawings is pre-visualization or previs. This is what that looks like. This is the process of converting the storyboards into 3D space. It basically describes what is going on. And here, in both the storyboards and the previs, we have General Warfield up against a Zerg rush. He runs out of ammo, he's got to think quickly, and he bayonets one of them, close range. So we have to describe that in 3 dimensions. So the way we do that is we take our characters, we stage them, we give them proper camera angles that reflect the storyboards, and we give them basic actions that were also reflected in the storyboards. And we also have to either maintain or reinforce or improve the pacing that was in the storyboards. So we start simple, and we build complexity on top of that. Hopefully by this time we have a good working version in 3D. Then, after that, before we get into any animation, we take a step to the side and do a little bit more planning. At this point, we know exactly what our characters are doing, but we don't know exactly how they're going to do them, their actions. So we do some more planning here. We get in front of the camera, and we practice. We rehearse, we do many takes, and we try different performances. It's our experimentation grounds. During these type of studies, we get to look at the body mechanics. We get to try out the different characteristics as well. We also will look deeper into the lore. For this specific character, General Warfield, we know a little bit about him. We know that he's the top general for Valerian Minx. He's very experienced, lots and lots of combat training and combat experience. He is quick-witted, he's physically strong. So what do we do with that information? We want to make that some of his core characteristics. We want to make performances out of that. So what we decided to do was, for this cinematic, we want to make him likable. We want to put him in battle. We want to show you how he proves his rank, and get the character involved, get you in there. So we also wanted to describe his struggle. He's a top-ranking officer without ammo on the battlefield. The situation is dire. If he were to die, his mission might fail, and he has to lead the charge and lead his army and take down Kerrigan. So we definitely wanted to show the struggle, make him show just on the very, very edge of survival in the cinematic. On this particular clip, one of our actors/animators is bayoneting one of the Zerglings, but he doesn't have a Zergling to act against. So the challenge is to come up with something that is a starting point. We get some information about body mechanics and weight in this sort of film, but we have to do the rest in animation. So we get into animation, we take all of our planning, our previs, our storyboards, and this live action reference that we did. We distill it down, we take the most important elements, and then we start animating the scene. Some things get cut out, some things get emphasized. For the first pass animation, our main goal is to take our core elements and our core values of weight, anticipation, and strong posing. And hopefully by this time it's also cutting a little bit better as well in the edit. Next after that we go to our second pass of